I'm going to be speaking today with Teresa Carlson, who's an occupational therapist here at Hennis Care Center in Bolivar, Ohio. Teresa, thanks a lot for talking with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me here.
I want to talk about a home assessment. As you know, one of the main reasons that this website is in place is to help elderly and disabled people be able to stay in their homes when it's appropriate. You know, some people will end up needing to go to a nursing home, but whenever it's possible, I feel that most people would rather stay in their own homes. And your job, one of your jobs as an occupational therapist, is to make sure that when people do go home, like from a hospital or after a stay at a rehab center, that their home is as safe as it possibly can be. So I'm asking you if you can tell us a little bit about what is involved in a home assessment. When you go into somebody's home, what are some of the things that you're looking for?
And that's very important, because I think one of the major goals that we have here at Hennis is to make sure that somebody can stay at home as long as possible. So safety is a really big aspect here, and we want to make sure that the people who do come here, if they've sustained a fall or if they've had a stroke or the environment needs to be changed so they can function independently, we really want to try to facilitate that. So some of the first things we take a look at is we'll schedule with the family to make sure a family member, son or daughter or spouse, are there so that they know that some of the accommodations that might need to be made to the home. So the first thing we take a look at is just walking into the house. How many steps under the house? Is there a grab bar there? Is the steps, what's the depth of the step, the height of the step? And we try to simulate them back at the facility so that they would be able to know if you've got a 7-inch step, you've got 5 of them. So we try to simulate that here. If you can just succeed here with safety and with people around you, then you're most likely safe at home. Sometimes you need a rail there. Sometimes you need a grab bar, just a little handle right by the door if it's one big step that goes in. A lot of people enter through their garage. They'll have the 2 to 3 concrete steps that go in. You turn right. You got to go 2 more steps to get into the kitchen. That's very common. So sometimes just a grab rail or something on the side to help them get up those 2 steps. A ranch-style house is usually preferable. We've done home assessments though with people who've had 2-story colonial type homes. And so you're looking at that 14, to 15 steps going upstairs and downstairs. Again, rails on both sides is what we take a look for. Proper shoes is also really important when you're going through the home. A lot of people like to wear just socks when they're going around, but if you've got wooden stairs, you need to make sure that those socks have got some kind of grip to them, or you're using some kind of a slipper that's firm enough that has so you don't slide down the steps in any way, shape, or form. The other things that we take a look at is usually, again, we enter into the kitchen. We're watching for area rugs. If somebody's going home with a walker who's never used a walker before, a lot of times that walker will catch on an area rug and really cause a tumbling situation. I don't always recommend every single area rug go up. Some area rugs are good. If you can actually step on the area rug and push your foot and it not slide anywhere, then it's going to stay there and the walker's not going to move. So you might need an area rug right by the kitchen sink to catch water, or right by the bathroom sink to catch water, or a tub mat that doesn't slide when you get out of the shower, so that you're not, that anything with linoleum or concrete or wood mixed with water is not going to be a nice surface. The other things we look for is somebody's favorite chair. We all have our favorite chair, our living spot, where we live, where we like to be. So that favorite chair usually is a recliner, a rocking chair, side of the couch. We like to make sure that all the supplies that they need are right there next to them. Remote control, telephone, calendar, glass of water, anything like that they would need. So it saves time getting up and down. Then usually another issue we take a look at is the bathroom. The bathroom is also a real big one because, again, you've usually got a linoleum flooring in there. Some people have carpeting, but linoleum floors in there. The height of the toilet's going to make a big difference, particularly if you've had a hip or knee replacement, or if you've had some back surgery. Anytime you're taking a look at the surface of what we call the seat to floor height, if that can be lengthened to 19 to 22 inches, then that's a pretty good height to get off of. Most toilets, though, are going to be anywhere 14 to 15 inches seat to floor height, so you're really sitting at a disadvantage.
So without going to the expense of putting a brand new toilet in, what are some things available, like for a quick fix?
A quick fix, and that wouldn't be permanent, are 2 options that are probably the safest options you can go by. Medicare and most insurances will cover what's called a 3-in-1 bedside commode. And that can act as what people will call a portable potty right next to the bed. Or there's also a piece that comes with it that has a splash guard, and it's a bucket that has no bottom. so that you can put that over the toilet, and that has adjustability to it depending on how tall you are. So that helps too, and it's not a permanent fixture. So like if you're having company and you say, well, I really don't want that over my toilet, you can take it out and put it in your bedroom or something like that, and they can still use the toilet as regular.
And those generally have armrests.
Armrests on either side. So then you've got yourself with the armrest on either side. You can use it as a bedside commode, and you can use it as a toilet riser. So it really is nice and convenient in that way. The only disadvantage to that is if your space between the bath around the toilet is too narrow for that whole unit to go over the toilet. So that's the only disadvantage to it. The other one is if you run into that situation, then we usually recommend a riser, and that can be anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. Now those can be different because all toilets are different, the shape of the toilet on the inside. Those are purchased independently. Insurance won't cover those at all in any way, shape, or form. They can run to about $30 to $40 sometimes, $50 depending on where you go. Walmart, I've seen them there, Rite Aid, Drug Mart, usually. Even Giant Eagle, I think they've been there as well. Okay. Those are placed over the toilet, and they have usually a screw to them that you can just turn and tighten it up against the toilet seat so it doesn't shift. Okay. So that's also another option.
So not a huge expense.
Not a huge expense, and not a permanent fixture either. So let's say if it's a hip replacement unit and you say, well, I don't anticipate having this trouble all my life. It's something that can hold you over for that couple of weeks while you're healing, yet and take it off and go back to your normal lifestyle. So that's not a big issue there either. Sometimes just a grab bar. We usually recommend looking at those at the hardware store. Honestly, when you go to a medical supply store, it's going to be costing you 2 to 3 times more than you would if you would take a look at something like Drug Mart, or again Walmart, Kmart, a hardware store, things like that. And difficulty usually is finding if you need a grab bar is somebody to install it for you. That's always been a big issue. So if you do pick up the grab bars and you don't have anybody to install them, you probably want to talk to somebody at the hardware store and say, do you know of anybody? The other big problem that we've always had is if, let's say, somebody who goes home who is not allowed to put weight on one leg, but they've got 7 steps to get into the house. So most times we're going to be recommending a ramp, and that's another issue. Now that's probably the biggest expense that there is. The rule to a ramp is, according to American Disabilities Act, is 1 inch from wherever the ground level is to that front door level. You need a foot of run. So it's 1 inch to rise to run is what they call it. And usually a professional contractor will know that. So that you can measure that out.
So in other words, if it's a full foot, that would take 12
inches.
feet.
Yeah, that's correct, 12 inches. So you also want to make sure that that ramp has some kind of bumpers on either side, so that if you're pushing yourself or if somebody else is pushing you, you don't go off to the side of it.
What do you recommend they're covered with anything, or just leave the bare wood? Or?
A contractor will sometimes offer you, they can put sand inside the paint bucket and paint it with sand at the bottom. They can also get they're like a rubberized strip that you can put on there as well, and that is also helpful. So they usually put something down at the bottom of that. Some contractors I've seen even put that indoor-outdoor carpeting, like that fake asphalt, or something on the asphalt or grass. So sometimes I've seen that as well, but to me that's still a little bit too slippery for a wheelchair and somebody pushing you up or down.
But and I think with time that might kind of shred. That could be a bad trip hazard.
So it's not the best suitable case. And then some people like to, if they live like in a mobile home, then they'll have the awning that's actually will be over the ramp. So that's helpful too, to help keep it clean and easy to get up and down. But again, having rails on either side of that as well as bumpers is going to be the safest entrance. As far as a vendor or somebody who's able to build that for you, that's usually, you kind of have to go again through a contractor of some kind.
Does Medicare or insurance cover the cost of ramps?
Neither one. So
and that's probably quite an expense.
That's usually going to be the expense. That's the expense as part of any kind of home modification is getting that ramp in. So that can be pretty pricey.
Now what if you get somebody to their home and, well, I'm assuming this isn't done in a vacuum. I mean, you don't just go in there to look at things. You're actually having the patient sit on the bed, sit on the chair, stand at the kitchen counter.
Yes. So we take the patient and the family member and we go through everything within the home. Everything from sitting at the kitchen table to sitting on the toilet, getting in and out of the shower. And then we have the issue usually in the shower. How about a grab bar in the shower? How about a type of seating? There's a tub seat and there's a tub bench. The bench is what comes halfway in and halfway out of the tub. So you sit on the bench and you slide over. And the benefit to that is that you're never at this teeter-totter balance type thing where you've got 1 foot in the tub and 1 foot in the air, or the other way around, because the object of the game is to always keep both feet on the ground at all times.
Yeah.
So we want to avoid, any kind of that balancing act. The seat can work as well if your balance is in good condition. So you can just go ahead and step up and over the tub wall and then sit down. And again, depending on the height of the tub wall. That varies for a lot of people too. We do usually recommend 1 or 2 grab bars within the shower. Sometimes depending on if you've got like a unit of the whole shower or tile, you can't always get a grab bar in there. So it has worked. I've seen it work. They're like a suction cup type grab bar, and those do work as long as they're mounted, to a real nice clean surface to clean that alcohol, get all the soap scum off of the wall before you try to mount that and stick that on there. You do have to monitor those, and I would test them every time before you go to use them, because moisture can get under that and it'll slide. I've never seen them pop off, but I have seen them slide a little bit, which can be a scary thing when you're relying on it for your support to get in and out.
Well, what if somebody's sitting in the shower and they can't reach the controls? I mean, are there adaptations that can be made for that?
Usually a handheld shower is very helpful, and they can mount something to the wall. And those are pretty easy to get in, and that's depending on how fancy you want to get. You can get something from $12 to $100. Do you want it to play the radio and give you a massage at the same time, or you just want it to get you clean? So those could be unscrewed by the top of the shower, and then you just screw the unit on. It has a long hose to it, and then you can usually have a clamp there.
So you don't really need to hire a plumber for that?
That one's very easy to self-install, as long as you can reach that yourself, or a son or daughter or family member can help you out with that. So those are pretty simple to do, and it depends on how fancy you want to get, on what you want to get for that.
What are some things that people can do, if the bed is just too low or too high?
Okay. So as you know, the newer mattresses that are coming out, and people are very self-conscious of any kind of back pain or anything, you're going to see a box spring that's real heavy, and you're going to see a mattress that's real thick. So sometimes we'll take a look, does the bed have casters on it? Is the casters necessary? Sometimes we'll take a look at if we need to lower that bed a little bit, can the whole bed frame come down, and can we just put the box spring on the floor with the mattress on top? Does that do it? Will that take care of it? Sometimes if the bed is too low and we want to heighten it up, you can get blocks, or you could make a block to put underneath each leg rest of the bed to heighten that up. There is also something to help you get in and out of bed. It's almost like a toddler gate, where it goes between the mattress and the box spring, and it's a rail to hang on to get you in and out of. I have seen, but do not recommend, using a step. A lot of families will say, well, we'll just make you a step so you can go up on the step and then from the step onto the bed. And that's not always safe, because a lot of times those people are using walkers, and if they don't place the walker directly on the step and have enough room to turn around to use it, they're going to end up falling off that step, or misuse of the walker on the step and end up kiltering down. So that's what has also happened in the past. So if we could in any way heighten or lower that. Worst case scenario for people who do need a bed change as far as height goes because of respiratory issues, a lot of times Medicare and Medicaid will help finance a hospital bed.
That could be elevated
by the feet, elevated by the head, or the whole bed goes up and down. So sometimes, or significant back pain if that's an issue, sometimes they will cover that.
And it seems like a bed like that would really decrease, the wear and tear on the caregivers. If somebody is in bed all the time and needs to be bathed and dressed while they're lying in bed, and the sheets need to be changed by the person rolling. Boy, if that bed could be raised, that would be a lot easier for the caregivers.
Definitely helpful in that area. So then there's always, I want to encourage families that before they even think about, oh my goodness, I really can't handle this anymore, to let the doctor know, because a lot of times they can order home health without any hospital stay, without any nursing home stay, to come in and start helping and get a home health aide to help out. It's a lot to take care of for one person. And that role change is more, I think, of a challenge than anything when it's either a son or daughter taking care of a parent, or a spouse taking care of you. Right. It's different. It's a role change, and that's difficult to manage. You need help with that. Everybody does. Nobody's a super person.
Right.
And that's what it's all about, is really kind of helping out each other. And it's difficult for the person accepting the help, because that affects their pride and they want to do it on their own, and I understand that. Yeah. But sometimes it's not forever. It's just for a little while. And it's just enough to get your strength back and get you back in the swing of things.
Right.
So we want to make sure you're the safest as possible.
Yeah. If somebody wants a home assessment done by an occupational therapist, or do physical therapists do home assessments too?
They do as well. Here at Hennis Care Center we have a program that's called the Ruby Slipper Program, which is there's no place like home.
Yeah.
So what you can do is that the family can contact the physician and say, I'm concerned about mom or dad or my spouse, and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I could do possible to make it safe for them at home, and any other ideas, or I'm having difficulty transferring them in and out of the car, I don't know how to do this, is that you can get a script and you can come as an outpatient. You don't have to be an inpatient here. And we can take a look at how the person is functioning, their strengths and abilities, and their balance. Is there anything as far as the outpatient services go that we could offer? Is it a diabetic issue? Is it nutrition? We can also consult that on an outpatient basis. And then what I can do then is go into the home at that time. It takes about maybe an hour to an hour and a half. And we go through the whole home with the family member and with the patient at the same time, and make sure again that they can get around the home safely. Maybe it's rearranging a bedroom or opening up a doorway where it's a little narrow because of furniture or anything like that. So sometimes a wider pathway, sometimes a different setup of arrangements of how things are. It just makes things a lot easier. And sometimes you can say, well, I've done everything I possibly could. And again, it's just another idea. Nothing again has to be done, but it's just recommended to try to make your life a little bit easier.
And sometimes just having somebody like you who's done this for so long, you know, as a fresh pair of eyes to say, well, you know, what if we would just tweak this a little bit? You know, maybe a family member hasn't thought of that yet, and that could be helpful.
The other issue I want to encourage is to also take a look at lighting. As people get older, their vision diminishes, and fluctuations, especially in Ohio weather, one day in the morning it's nice and sunny, and then it gets darker in the afternoon, to make sure you have the proper lighting, and if there is any steps involved, where the lighting hits. If you have a hallway light like most people do, right at like a foyer type area, and you have to go down the steps, you're walking down the steps with the light behind you, so you're casting a shadow on those steps. And when you cast that shadow, the depth perception of those steps go off. So it's always a good idea to have one right down at the bottom of the steps so that light can come up and you can count, because I've heard so many times of people missing that last step, and down they go, they broke the hip, I hurt my shoulder, I hit my head, and it ends, and you know, unfortunately when somebody goes by themselves, who's going to find them in the basement?
Right.
And that's also just a scary thing. So avoid basements.
Well, Teresa, thank you so much for
sharing
all this good information with us. And I will put contact information for Hennis Care Center on this Facebook page. And also, Teresa, what is the phone number here?
The phone number is 330-874-9999 at extension 3165. This is the therapy department.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.